Clint Eastwood doesn't just carry guns in westerns. He transforms them into extensions of his soul, personally selecting authentic frontier weapons and training relentlessly to handle them like a genuine gunfighter, while other actors fumbled with disposable props. Today, we're counting down the 11 legendary firearms that made Clint Eastwood the most iconic Western star in cinema history. Hit subscribe right now because what you're about to discover will change how you watch every Eastwood Western forever. Number 11. Starr Double Action. 1858 Army. The Forgotten Innovation. Hang 'em High, 1968. Most fans remember Eastwood's iconic Colt revolvers, but in Hang 'em High, he carried one of the most underappreciated handguns of the Civil War era. The Starr Double Action. 1858 Army represents a character who understands that survival requires choosing function over fame. This revolver was actually more advanced than the famous Colt Army, featuring true double-action capability decades before it became standard. The Starr's .44 caliber chambering fires a 218-grain bullet at 750 feet per second, delivering 273 foot-pounds of stopping power through its 6-inch barrel. Weighing 2 pounds and 15 ounces with a 6-round capacity, this revolver gave Union cavalry decisive advantages in sustained firefights. The double-action trigger system eliminated the fatal delay of manually cocking the hammer between shots. Here's what separates the Starr from contemporary designs. While Colt dominated the market through superior marketing, the Starr actually offered faster follow-up shots and better mechanical reliability under battlefield conditions. The Union Army purchased over 23,000 of these revolvers between 1861 and 1865, proving that professional soldiers valued performance over prestige. Eastwood's choice to carry this weapon in Hang 'em High reveals his character's practical mindset. Marshal Jed Cooper isn't interested in showing off with the most famous gun. He's carrying the weapon that gives him the best chance of surviving multiple encounters with outlaws who want him dead. The Starr's double-action capability meant Cooper could put accurate fire down range faster than opponents fumbling with single-action mechanisms. Original Starr, Double Action, 1858. Army revolvers now command $3,000 to $8,000 at auction depending on condition, while quality reproductions run $800 to $1,200. This forgotten innovation leads us to a rifle that changed warfare forever. Number 10. Spencer Repeating Rifle, the Game Changer, the Outlaw, Josie Wales, 1976. When Josie Wales needed serious firepower to survive his vendetta ride through hostile territory, Eastwood armed him with a Spencer repeating rifle. This weapon wasn't just ahead of its time. It was the rifle that convinced the Union Army that repeating firearms would dominate future warfare. The Spencer's revolutionary design put 7 shots of devastating power in the hands of a single shooter. The Spencer's 56-56 Spencer chambering launches a 350-grain bullet at 1,200 feet per second through its 22-inch barrel, delivering 112 foot-pounds of energy, weighing 10 pounds with a 7-round tubular magazine in the buttstock, plus 1 in the chamber. This lever-action rifle transformed Civil War tactics by giving infantry repeating firepower that Confederate forces couldn't match. Christopher Spencer's design was so revolutionary that President Abraham Lincoln personally test-fired the rifle on the White House lawn in 1863. The Spencer could fire 21 aimed rounds per minute, while soldiers with muzzle-loading rifles struggled to fire 3. This 7-to-1 advantage didn't just change battles, it changed the war's outcome. Eastwood's Josie Wales carries the Spencer because he's a former Confederate guerrilla who's learned to embrace superior technology over Southern pride. The rifle represents Wales's evolution from lost cause romanticism to pragmatic survival. When you're outnumbered and hunted by bounty hunters, Comancheros, and Union soldiers, you don't carry what's traditional. You carry what keeps you breathing. The Spencer's tube magazine required manual reloading through the buttstock, a slower process than later designs, but the reliability under harsh conditions made it legendary. Soldiers could ride through rivers, fight in mud, and the Spencer kept firing. That reliability saved Wales's life repeatedly throughout the film. Original Spencer repeating rifles from the Civil War era now sell for $4,000 to $12,000, depending on condition and military markings. Federal contracts and documented history significantly increase value, but repeating rifles weren't the only innovation Wales carried. Number 9. Lamat revolver, the captain's choice, the outlaw, Josie Wales, 1976. Here stands one of the most unique revolvers ever designed, and Eastwood's choice to include it reveals his commitment to authentic historical detail. The Lamat revolver wasn't just another Civil War handgun. It was a devastating combination weapon that gave Confederate officers overwhelming close-range firepower. This French-designed monster featured 9 .42 caliber chambers revolving around a central smoothbore barrel that fired shotgun loads. The Lamat's .42 caliber chambers fire 174 grain bullets at 650 feet per second, delivering 163 foot-pounds of energy. But the real innovation was the central 20-gauge shotgun barrel, loaded with buckshot. Weighing 3 pounds and 6 ounces with 9 rounds of ammunition plus 1 shotgun charge, this weapon was basically carrying 2 guns in one hand. Confederate cavalry officers, including General J.E.B. Stuart, favored the Lamat for mounted combat. The revolver's dual firing system was controlled by a pivoting striker. 9 shots for medium-range work, then flip the striker and unleash a devastating shotgun blast for final close-quarters work. In the chaos of cavalry charges or close-range gunfights, that shotgun barrel often meant the difference between victory and death. Eastwood's depiction of Lone Waddy carrying the Lamat in The Outlaw Josie Wales demonstrates the filmmaker's dedication to period accuracy. The character is a Cherokee warrior fighting alongside Confederate forces, and the Lamat was exactly the type of weapon that would have been available to such fighters in 1865. The gun tells a story without words. Only approximately 2,800 Lamat revolvers reached Confederate hands during the Civil War, making originals incredibly rare and valuable. Authentic Lamat revolvers now command $15,000 to $40,000 at auction, with documented Confederate service examples reaching even higher prices. Modern reproductions from Pieta run $1,000 to $1,500. But Wales needed more than handguns to survive. Number 8. Colt Dragoon Revolver, the hand cannon, the Outlaw Josie Wales, 1976. The Colt Dragoon represents raw, overwhelming power in a handgun package. When Eastwood armed Josie Wales with these massive revolvers, he was showing audiences a man who understood that frontier survival required weapons capable of stopping both men and animals at close range. The Dragoon wasn't designed for fast-draw duels. It was built to end fights with a single shot. The Dragoon's .44 caliber chambering drives a 220-grain bullet at 1,000 feet per second, generating 490 foot-pounds of devastating energy through its 7.5-inch barrel. Weighing over 4 pounds and measuring 15 inches long, these were among the most powerful handguns of their era. The massive weight helped control the substantial recoil from black powder charges that could stop a charging horse. Colt designed the Dragoon specifically for mounted cavalry, creating a horse pistol that could deliver rifle-like energy in a handgun platform. Between 1848 and 1860, Colt manufactured approximately 20,000 Dragoons across 3 models. The first model, second model, and third model each featured incremental improvements, but all shared the same basic design philosophy: maximum power in a handgun package. Wales carries the Dragoon because he's learned that mercy gets you killed on the frontier. The psychological impact of facing a man wielding these hand cannons cannot be overstated. When Wales draws these monsters, enemies know they're facing someone willing and able to deliver. Overwhelming force, the Dragoon doesn't wound, it ends threats permanently. Eastwood's handling reveals Wales' physical strength and determination. Most men couldn't effectively wield one Dragoon, let alone control the recoil well enough for accurate follow-up shots. Wales makes it look easy because he's a man who's mastered the most powerful tools available. That mastery separated survivors from corpses on the frontier. Original Colt Dragoon revolvers in collectible condition command $6,000 to $20,000 depending on model and condition. First model Dragoons with documented military history can exceed $30,000. Quality reproductions run $400 to $700, but sometimes individual weapons aren't enough. Number 7. Gatling gun. The Mechanical Reaper. The Outlaw. Josie Wales, 1976. When Josie Wales and his companions defend the Crooked River Ranch from Comanchero attack, Eastwood introduces the Gatling gun to demonstrate the mechanization of warfare that would define the coming decades. This weapon represents the moment when individual gunfighting skill became obsolete against industrial firepower. Dr. Richard Gatling's rotating barrel design changed warfare forever. The Gatling gun's 4570 government chambering fires 405 grain bullets at 1,350 feet per second through its multiple rotating barrels, delivering 1,640 foot-pounds of crushing energy with each round, weighing over 170 pounds with a theoretical rate of fire between 200 and 400 rounds per minute. This weapon transformed warfare from individual combat into mechanical slaughter. Gatling's design, patented in 1862, used a hand-cranked mechanism to rotate multiple barrels through a loading, firing, and extraction cycle. This system prevented barrel overheating while maintaining sustained fire rates impossible with single-barrel weapons. The Union Army adopted the Gatling late in the Civil War, but its true impact came during the Indian Wars and overseas conflicts. The scene where Eastwood's character helps operate the Gatling against overwhelming numbers demonstrates the weapon's psychological impact. The distinctive sound of the Gatling's rotating barrels and continuous fire created terror in enemies who had never faced such sustained firepower. One man could generate the firepower of an entire infantry company. Wales's use of the Gatling represents his willingness to adapt to changing times while maintaining his moral code. He's not celebrating the industrialization of killing. He's using every available tool to protect innocent people from murderous raiders. The Gatling wins the fight, but at a cost. The personal nature of gunfighting dies with each mechanical revolution. Original Gatling guns are extremely rare and valuable, commanding $100,000 to $300,000 when they occasionally appear at auction. Most examples reside in museums. Reproduction firing models run $15,000 to $30,000, but Eastwood's most memorable weapons were those that required personal skill. Before we reveal the top 5 legendary firearms that made Clint Eastwood immortal, hit that like button if you're discovering the authentic weapons that built cinema's greatest Western star. These aren't just movie props. These are the actual tools that professional gunfighters chose when their lives depended on superior firepower and unmatched skill. Subscribe now because the top 5 weapons will blow your mind. Number 6. Remington 1858. New Army revolvers. The Preacher's Justice. Pale Rider, 1985. In Pale Rider, Eastwood isn't just a man. He's a specter of divine judgment, and the twin Remington 1858 New Army revolvers hidden beneath his preacher's coat become instruments of heavenly retribution. These cap and ball revolvers represent cold, calculated violence delivered by someone who exists beyond normal moral constraints. The Remington's solid frame construction made it stronger and more accurate than Colt's open-top designs. The Remington 1858's 44 caliber chambering fires a 220 grain bullet at 800 feet per second, delivering 312 foot-pounds of stopping power through its 8-inch barrel. These cap and ball revolvers featured solid frame construction that made them stronger and more accurate than many contemporary designs. Weighing 2 pounds and 14 ounces with a 6-round capacity, the Remington offered superior durability under harsh conditions. What made the Remington 1858 superior was its top strap over the cylinder, which added rigidity and improved accuracy. Remington produced approximately 132,000 of these revolvers between 1858 and 1865, with most going to Union forces. But many found their way west after the war, becoming favorites among lawmen and gunfighters who valued accuracy over flash. When Eastwood's preacher finally reveals his true nature and draws the twin Remingtons, that metallic click echoes like thunder from the heavens. The solid frame design gave these revolvers superior strength for repeated firing, while the brass trigger guard and backstrap provided distinctive visual appeal. The preacher isn't interested in warning shots or wounding enemies. He's delivering final judgment. Eastwood's dual-wielding technique showcases years of firearms training and an understanding of frontier gunfighting tactics. The Remington's superior balance made it better suited for two-gun work than the nose-heavy Colt designs. When you're facing multiple armed opponents, having two reliable revolvers could mean survival. Original Remington 1858. New Army revolvers command $2,000 to $6,000 depending on condition, with documented military examples reaching higher prices. Quality reproductions from Pieta and Uberti run $300 to $500. Divine judgment required reliable tools. Number 5. Winchester Model 1873. The gun that won the West. 2 mules for Sister Sarah, 1970. The Winchester Model 1873 earned its legendary nickname through proven performance across the American frontier. When Eastwood's character in 2 Mules for Sister Sarah carries this lever-action rifle, he's wielding the weapon that more than any other defined what Western rifles should be. This wasn't the most powerful rifle available, but it represented the perfect balance of power, speed, and reliability. Chambered in .44-40 Winchester, the Model 1873 drives a 200-grain bullet at 1,190 feet per second through its 24-inch barrel, delivering 630 foot-pounds of stopping power. The lever design provided rapid follow-up shots, while the tubular magazine held 15 rounds of frontier justice. Weighing 9½ pounds, this rifle gave the perfect balance for all-around use. Oliver Winchester's company manufactured over 720,000 Model 1873 rifles between 1873 and 1919, making it one of the most successful firearms in American history. The rifle's popularity came from its versatility. Ranchers, lawmen, outlaws, and settlers all recognized its value. The same ammunition worked in both rifles and revolvers chambered in .44-40, simplifying logistics on the frontier. Eastwood's smooth operation of the lever action became poetry in motion throughout his westerns, each cycle chambering another round of inevitable justice. The 1873's presence reminded audiences that the frontier wasn't won by the fastest gun, but by the most reliable one. When you're miles from civilization, mechanical reliability means survival. The Model 1873's toggle link action proved less robust than later Winchester designs when handling powerful cartridges, which is why Winchester developed the Model 1876 for big game hunters. But for most frontier applications, the 1873 offered ideal performance, light enough to carry all day, powerful enough to handle most threats, and reliable enough to stake your life on. Original Winchester Model 1873 rifles command $3,000 to $15,000 depending on condition, configuration, and historical significance. Special order features, documented history, or famous ownership can push values much higher. Modern reproductions from companies like Uberti and Cimarron run $1,000 to $2,000, but sometimes the situation demanded even more firepower. Number 4. Colt Walker revolvers. The 2C original hand cannons. The Outlaw Josie Wales, 1976. Few weapons scream frontier power like the massive Colt Walker revolvers that Eastwood dual-wielded in the Outlaw Josie Wales. These enormous .44 caliber revolvers represented the ultimate expression of black powder handgun technology. When Josie Wales spits tobacco and asks if you're going to pull those pistols, or whistle Dixie while wearing twin walkers, audiences knew they were witnessing cinematic perfection. The Colt Walker's .44 caliber chambering fires a 220 grain bullet at 1,300 feet per second, generating 820 foot-pounds of energy. These measurements made the Walker the most powerful handgun in the world until the introduction of the .357 Magnum in 1935. Weighing nearly 5 pounds each and measuring over 15 inches long, these were true horse pistols designed for mounted combat. Captain Samuel Walker of the Texas Rangers collaborated with Samuel Colt to develop this massive revolver in 1846. The Rangers needed a handgun that could stop charging Comanche warriors and their horses at close range. The Walker delivered that stopping power and more. Its 9-inch barrel and 6-shot cylinder held massive powder charges that generated rifle-like energy levels. Only approximately 1,100 Colt Walkers were manufactured in 1847, making originals among the most valuable revolvers in existence. Most went to military units, but survivors became legendary across the frontier. The Walker's reputation for power ensured it remained desirable long after more modern designs appeared. Eastwood's portrayal of Wales-wielding twin Walkers demonstrates incredible physical strength and firearm mastery. The recoil from these monsters would break the wrists of untrained shooters, but Wales handles them like extensions of his arms, delivering devastating firepower with casual competence. This isn't about showing off. It's about overwhelming force wielded by someone who's mastered the most powerful tools available. The Walker's only real weakness was its weight, which made it impractical for daily carry. But for mounted combat or situations where maximum power justified the burden, nothing matched the Walker's authority. When Wales draws those hand cannons, enemies understand they're facing someone who carries weapons worthy of legends. Original Colt Walker revolvers are among the most valuable American firearms, commanding $200,000 to $800,000 when they appear at auction. Documented military examples or those with famous owners can exceed $1 million. Quality reproductions from Uberdi run $400 to $600, but raw power wasn't always the answer. Number 3. Winchester Model 1892. The Evolution. High Plains Drifter, 1973, and Unforgiven, 1992. The Winchester Model. 1892 represented John Moses Browning's refinement of the lever-action rifle concept. When Eastwood carried this rifle in both High Plains Drifter and Unforgiven, spanning nearly 20 years of his career, he was acknowledging the weapon that perfected what the Model 1873 started. This wasn't just evolution, it was revolution in reliability. Chambered in .44-40 Winchester, the Model 1892 drives a 200-grain bullet at 1,190 feet per second through its 20-inch carbine barrel, delivering 630 foot-pounds of stopping power. Weighing just 6.5 pounds with a 10-round tubular magazine, this lever-action rifle transformed frontier warfare by putting reliable repeating firepower in the hands of skilled marksmen. Browning's design eliminated the feeding problems and mechanical weaknesses that occasionally plagued the earlier Model 1873. The 1892's improved action was smoother, stronger, and more reliable under harsh conditions. Winchester manufactured over 1 million Model 1892 rifles between 1892 and 1941, making it one of the most successful firearms in history. In High Plains Drifter, the mysterious stranger carries the 1892 as a tool of vengeance. The rhythmic lever action became a signature sound in Eastwood's westerns, each cycle promising swift retribution for those who deserved it. The rifle represents cold efficiency without mercy. 2 decades later in Unforgiven, an aging William Money carries the same basic rifle design, showing how the best tools transcend generations. The Model 1892's carbine configuration provided rifle accuracy while maintaining maneuverability in tight spaces. The shortened barrel reduced weight without significantly compromising velocity at typical engagement ranges. For horseback work or close-quarters combat, the carbine length was ideal. Professional survivors understood these advantages. Eastwood's consistent use of the 1892 across multiple decades of filmmaking demonstrates his recognition of the rifle's perfection. This wasn't about finding something new for each film. It was about acknowledging that certain designs achieve near perfection. Why change what works? Original Winchester Model 1892 carbines command $2,000 to $8,000 depending on condition and configuration. Special order features or documented history increase value significantly. Modern reproductions from Rossi, Chiappa, and others run $500 to $1,000, but Eastwood's most famous weapon wasn't a rifle. Number 2. Smith & Wesson Model 2944 Magnum, the most powerful handgun. Dirty Harry, 1971. I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself. But being this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off, you've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? With those words, Eastwood and the Smith & Wesson Model 29 created one of cinema's most iconic moments. This .44 Magnum revolver became synonymous with Harry Callahan and transformed both Eastwood's career and American gun culture overnight. The Model 29 wasn't just a weapon. It was a declaration about justice, determination, and the kind of man who refuses to back down from evil. The Model 29's .44 Magnum chambering fires a 240-grain bullet at 1,350 feet per second, delivering 971 foot-pounds of devastating energy through its 6.5-inch barrel. The end-frame construction and heavy barrel provided the strength needed to handle this powerful cartridge while maintaining accuracy. Weighing 48.5 ounces with a 6-round capacity, this revolver doubled the power of standard police service revolvers. Elmer Keith developed the .44 Magnum cartridge in collaboration with Smith & Wesson, introducing it in 1956. The cartridge was designed for hunting large game at handgun ranges, not law enforcement. But Eastwood's portrayal of Harry Callahan carrying this hand cannon for police work created instant demand among officers and civilians alike. Smith & Wesson couldn't manufacture Model 29s fast enough to meet demand after Dirty Harry's release. Eastwood's confident handling of the massive revolver showed Harry Callahan's willingness to use overwhelming force when necessary. The Model 29 wasn't just a weapon. It was Harry's response to a justice system that couldn't protect innocent people from predators. When legal constraints prevented proper law enforcement, Harry's .44 Magnum delivered immediate justice. The recoil from full-power .44 Magnum loads is substantial, requiring significant hand strength and proper technique to control. Eastwood trained extensively with the Model 29 to achieve the casual competence Harry displays on screen. That training shows in every scene. Harry doesn't fight the recoil. He absorbs it and delivers accurate follow-up shots. The Model 29 appeared in all 5 Dirty Harry films, becoming as much a part of Eastwood's screen persona as his squinting eyes and gravelly voice. The revolver transcended its role as a prop to become a cultural icon, representing tough justice in an increasingly complicated world. Original Smith & Wesson Model 29 revolvers from the Dirty Harry era command $1,000 to $3,000 depending on configuration and condition. Pre-lock models are particularly desirable among collectors, but even this legendary revolver doesn't match the weapon that made Eastwood immortal. Number 1. Colt Single Action Army, The Man with No Name. Dollars Trilogy, 1964 to 1966. Here stands the firearm that made Clint Eastwood immortal, the Colt Single Action Army. This isn't just the most famous revolver in history. It's the weapon that defined Western cinema, created the template for every gunfighter who followed, and established Eastwood as one of cinema's most enduring icons. The peacemaker in the hands of the man with no name changed movies forever. The Single Action Army's .45 Colt chambering drives a 255-grain bullet at 860 feet per second through barrels ranging from 4 3/4 to 7.5 inches, delivering 420 foot-pounds of stopping power. Weighing 2.5 pounds with a 6-round capacity, this single-action revolver demanded deliberate intent from every man who drew it. Samuel Colt's company introduced the Single Action Army in 1873, and it immediately became the standard by which all other revolvers were measured. The U.S. Army adopted it as the official sidearm, giving it the nickname Peacemaker. Between 1873 and 1941, Colt manufactured over 357,000 revolvers in first-generation production alone, but none achieved the legendary status of Eastwood's screen guns. In A Fistful of Dollars for a Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Eastwood's Man with No Name carried variations of the single-action army, creating the definitive image of the Western gunfighter. That image persists today, over 50 years later. Eastwood's carry and draw of the Colt revealed his character's moral standing. The single-action mechanism forced conscious decision-making. You couldn't spray bullets in panic. Each shot required deliberately cocking the hammer, carefully aiming, and accepting full responsibility for the consequences. This weapon didn't just make Eastwood a star. It created the template for every Western anti-hero who followed. Sergio Leone's extreme close-ups of Eastwood's eyes, the Colt's hammer, and the weathered grip created visual poetry that elevated Westerns from B-movies to art. The gun became a character itself, representing frontier justice in its purest form. Cold steel and hot lead delivering moral authority when civilized society failed. The distinctive click of the single-action army's hammer being cocked became one of cinema's most recognizable sounds. That mechanical sound promised immediate consequences for those who crossed moral lines. In Eastwood's hands, the peacemaker lived up to its name, bringing permanent peace to those who chose violence. Between 1873 and 1941, first-generation Colt single-action army revolvers were produced for military, civilian, and export markets. Original Colts from this era command $3,000 to over $100,000 depending on configuration, condition, and historical significance. Documented military service, famous ownership, or special order features can push values into six figures. Modern third-generation Colts retail for $1,400 to $2,000, while quality reproductions from Uberdi and Cimarron run $500 to $800, but the value isn't in the metal. It's in what Eastwood made it represent: justice, determination, and moral authority delivered through 45 Colt cartridges. The single-action army in Eastwood's hands became the physical embodiment of frontier law, deliberate, powerful, and absolutely uncompromising when facing evil. Clint Eastwood's Western Firearms reveal that legendary actors don't just carry guns. They transform them into symbols that transcend the films themselves. From the forgotten innovation of the Starr double action to the immortal Colt single-action army, each weapon reflected not just the character, but the evolution of American cinema and culture. Eastwood succeeded where countless others failed, because he understood that authenticity requires respecting the tools that shaped our history and the men who wielded them with deadly purpose. Whether facing outlaws in dusty frontier towns or dispensing justice in modern San Francisco, Eastwood's weapons became extensions of his character's souls. The gun reveals the man. The man elevates the gun. Together, they created cinematic immortality. From The Man with No Name to Dirty Harry to the aged gunfighter in Unforgiven, Eastwood's Firearms tell the story of American mythology itself. Power, responsibility, and the eternal struggle between civilization and chaos. Which Eastwood weapon defined your image of Western justice? Drop your thoughts below about which firearm captured your imagination most powerfully. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell for more deep dives into the authentic weapons that built cinema's greatest legends. Because the real stories behind these guns are always more powerful than the myths. Remember, in the hands of Clint Eastwood, iron and lead become instruments of immortality.